Exciting news for travelers to China in a significant move toward a higher level of global engagement. China has introduced a unilateral favorable visa policy involving citizens from 6 countries, namely France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Spain and Malaysia. From December the 1st of this year, ordinary passport holders from these 6 countries will need to apply for visa if they are staying less than 15 days in China for business, tourism, family visit and transit purposes. The policy will be tried for 1 year starting this Friday on. And this is the latest move in a series of policies in China's pursuit of what it calls high standard opening up. Why these 6 countries? What have been the reactions so far and what to expect next? I'm very pleased to be joined from Beijing by Rong Ying, Vice President of China Institute of International Studies, and from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia by Arnaud Bertrand, a French entrepreneur who lived in China for 7 years. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. First of all, a little bit more details about this new policy. On November the 24th, which is last Friday, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs posted an online statement saying from December the 1st this year to November the 30th next year, citizens from the 6 countries holding ordinary passports can be exempted from visa to enter China and stay for no more than 15 days for business, tourism, family visit and transit purposes. People from these 6 countries who do not meet the visa exemption requirements will still need to obtain a visa before entering China. Mr. Bertrand, let me go to you first. So you should be happy about this, aren't you?
Sure. As a French citizen, I'm very happy. I think this is excellent news by China. In fact, this was announced when the French foreign minister was in China, and she also said it's excellent news. And I hope it leads to many French people finally, going to China and discovering the country.
Let's take a look at the reasons or the context behind this move. China has been calling for higher standard or promising to the world to have higher standard opening up for quite a long time, but the COVID years was not helpful. In April this year, after the COVID restrictions were lifted, during his inspection tour of southern China, Chinese President Xi Jinping stressed once again the importance of remaining steadfast in comprehensively deepening reform and expanding high standard opening up. Professor Rong, do you see this latest policy announcement as one of the series of moves to implement President Xi or China's promise to opening up to a higher standard?
Well, I think very much so. It is certainly a very concrete sort of steps and a measure to illustrate, to demonstrate. I think China not only, they made a commitment, the announcement, but also do whatever it means. And of course, the visa, particularly entry visa, is, a kind of a permission, and which is regarded as a symbol, as a kind of a sovereign right of a state. That they say, if I don't like you, if I don't want you, I don't want the government permit or permission to enter my country, my territory. But of course, in modern days, in the days, globalized world, I think visa permissions normally is meant to certainly effect in a way to address the concerns of security, and also I think meant to is arranged, or normally is also being in a reciprocal basis.
Right.
In other words,
this is very interesting. Sorry for interrupting. And let me go to Arnaud there, because this is a unilateral announcement. Basically, China did it on its own without asking for reciprocity. Well, if country would like to reciprocate, that would be good. But if countries don't, that seems also to be okay with China. Arnaud, how do you find this aspect?
Yes, I think that's actually the most significant aspect of the move here. The not asking for reciprocity. I think it's extremely rare. So it's a very important gesture by the Chinese government. Actually, I think in her response to the announcement, the German ambassador said that it will be very difficult for Europe to reciprocate because of Schengen rules. So
China knew it. So China knew that
exactly.
when it opens up unilaterally, it will not get the same level of openness, but yet China did it. I think it is important that we take a look at the context. And here we prepared a timeline of some of the most recent moves, especially after the COVID damaged years were gone. In March this year, China resumed issuance of all categories of visas to foreign nationals. So foreign nationals with valid visas that were issued before the COVID years will be allowed to enter China using those visas, and various visa-free policies around different regions of China were also put back into place. In July this year, China resumed a 15-day visa-free entry for people from Brunei and Singapore. There are other countries still on the list, but hopefully this will come. Also in July, Alipay and WeChat Pay, which are two of the most prominent online payment platforms, they started to accept international credit cards for their platforms. And in November, China expanded scope of its 3 to 6 days transit visa-free policies to 54 countries, extending it to Norway. So Professor Rong, against this backdrop, what are we seeing here?
Yeah, I think it's very good for you to take a stop to review the process. I would argue that it is the recent announcement, of that visa-free for temporarily, for these 6 countries. It's a continuation. It's a continued effort by China to open up, to demonstrate that it is ready, and it is also very much, I think, wanted to facilitate the interactions, between China on the one hand and, those targeted countries. And remember, I think we talked about the relaxation of the transit visa. I think we also have to mention that there are already have some special arrangement for some special area. For example, Hainan. If one travels to Hainan, normally, in Hainan, you can enjoy, some visa relaxation or visa sort of even visa free. So if you take the holistic view or take the process, the past years of opening up China reform opening up, this is a continued process. This is a very concrete demonstration of China is more confident, is more open, and is more ready to embrace, businessmen, travelers, and whoever, we feel, necessary. This is very much the significance.
Businessmen and women, let's put it this way. Arnaud, let me ask you this. You have been fighting disinformation and misinformation against China on international media platforms. There has been a lot of it, and COVID didn't help. What kind of ramification do you think this move may have on China telling its own story or letting people know the real China?
Yes, so like the previous guest was saying, it is a show of confidence. It's a way for China to say, we are proud of the country we've built. Come see for yourself. It's in a way a desire to educate people about China, to demystify it or demonize it, because I think there has been quite a big demonization enterprise in the West on China. So it's China telling people the country is quite different from what you've been told. So why don't you come and see it with your own eyes? And there are lots of talk about people-to-people exchange from the Chinese government, which I think the government rightly sees as a way to, improve relations and improve its images, because it's very easy to sort of understand China in a very abstract way, understand the people of China, through concepts that you read about in the press. But once you you meet people, you see faces, you learn names. It completely changes your image of the country. It humanizes the people, and you can't really fear or hate people. You simply see other human beings instead of just concepts.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that people were complaining, and to my personal knowledge, was the paperwork, the forms to fill out and the very difficult processes. You have to, an appointment here, and then you have to submit your paper, and then you have to pick up your paper at another day, and sometimes you have to travel. So, Arnaud, in terms of that, what kind of improvement are you seeing there? I'm seeing that the paperwork, the formalities will also be greatly reduced, and that's a great thing for friends of China as well, such as you, isn't it? I mean, I'm speaking for you now. What is your point?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there is simply no paperwork anymore. I mean, if you stay less than 15 days, so that's excellent. After, I think, even for if you stay further, there was also a recent announcement by the Chinese government that there will be less paperwork for these too. So all these moves are very good.
That's great. Well, let's take a look at some of the reactions. And goodwill for goodwill, the French Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs, Catherine Colonna, thanked cordially the Chinese side for facilitating the visit of the French people to China, and said France will continue to prioritize cultural and people-to-people exchanges. Actually, they have decided in return to allow Chinese students who earn master degrees in France to stay in the country for 5 more years to facilitate exchanges. That's according to AP reports, but we look at the French original, which is fairly accurate. And Malaysia also decided to grant 30-day visa-free travel for Chinese citizens starting December the 1st this year. And the German ambassador to Beijing, although not being able to promise the same thing in return, she did say that they will make it easier for Chinese applicants of German visas to wait a bit shorter. So, Professor Rong, how do you look at these waves of reactions to China's unilateral gesture?
Yeah, certainly, I think these are very friendly gestures and friendly responses to China's move. I have to say that certainly the Chinese, as a scholar, I mean, who travels a lot, we're expecting that more coming, even though at this moment, I think we can understand that because of some of the constraints or restraints. I mean, for example, talking about Europe, but I would expect that more favorable, more facilitations would come. And having said that, I would add one more point that if for a frequent traveler, I mean, the entry at a point there means the services or, I mean, the process is also very much important. I would proud to say that as far as my personal experience is concerned, I mean, entering China is been the most, I mean, friendly and efficient one. I've been run into many difficulties. I mean, in some countries, I'm not going to name it, but take a long queue, lot of questions. I mean, lot of unnecessary, I think, steps, which can easily regarded at least unfriendly, and in most cases were regarded as a bias or prejudice and a particular community. So China is very much open. China has done great, and China, I think, is ready to open up to welcome friends and welcome, travelers who will really come to see in China.
Yeah, certainly that message is out there. But what are the next steps? What can we expect next? For instance, just now we were talking about the German ambassador's response. Madam Patricia Flohr said on the same day on international social media that it was a joyful occasion for relatives and friends of people living in China, for business, tourism, German-Chinese associations, and other bilateral bilateral projects. Facilitation, she said, for Chinese nationals traveling to Germany and Europe are only possible, however, through a joint decision of all members of the European Schengen Agreement. Therefore, Germany hopes that the Chinese government will implement the measures announced today for all EU member states. And this would be an important improvement of our citizens' mobility, enabling deeper personal, cultural and economic relations between China and the EU. Arnold, how do you look? Well, she is stating the fact, right? She's stating the fact because for European countries, for the Schengen area to extend visa-free entry to China, China needs to do that to EU. How do you look at the possible next steps here?
I mean, it's interesting that she said that. I'm not exactly sure if what she means is if China extends this to all EU member states, then the EU will do the same. If she's suggesting this, it's interesting.
I don't think she's in the position to do that, right? I mean, she's not speaking.
Exactly,
yeah, but she says this is the precondition, because only if this is how I see it, Arnold.
Yeah. So it's. I mean, if we arrive at that end state where Chinese citizens can travel freely to the EU and vice versa, I think this would be absolutely ideal. And I don't know the behind of the decision by the Chinese government, whether it's a first test to see if this can be further extended after to the whole EU. I don't know. Maybe it's a step in that general direction. But if we arrive at that end state, that would be excellent, I think.
Professor Rong, how do you look at that? Because this is a one-year trial policy, and China has always taken this, let's feel the stones, let's find the next stones before we go further. So this is one of that. What do you expect next? If this is successful, could China offer this to people from all EU countries? Or maybe that's too much to expect for the time being?
At this moment, I think we should let us just expect something modest. It is true, I think, for China, that we have to do in a gradual, step-by-step way. Having said that, I would like to make a point that it is good, of course. I mean, all right for the German ambassador to say that it's a hope that that treatment will open up to all the Schengen, all the European countries. But I would argue that the Schengen arrangement, the idea to have a Schengen arrangement is to promote, to facilitate travelers, within travels, or within Europe. So I don't think it is a good idea to use Schengen arrangement as an excuse to ask more or to, not reciprocate the unilateral, friendly gesture by China that has been now provided to some European countries.
I hope they will.
So it has to go all the way.
Yeah. Well, I hope they will do more. But right now, it's a very long queue for applicants of German visas for the Chinese here in Beijing. She said this is going to be easier. Let's hope. Other ways can be found to reciprocate the goodwill, maybe. I have to leave it there. Many thanks to Mr. Rong Ying, Vice President of China Institute of International Studies, joining me from Beijing, and Arnold Bertrand, a friend of China living in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia now. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about a proposal to mark November the 25th as Olympic Culture Day. What does that have to do with you? Stay with us.